How's it going, everyone? It is Drago. We're back with another chapter of Fairy Tail 100 Year Quest, chapter 122, Apology. And the cover page for this chapter has Silene on it, just chilling underneath the moon, which to me honestly just kind of reminds me of like when she first appeared in the manga and whatnot. We've had a lot of focus on Silene lately, especially with last chapter. So we pick up our chapter with Wendy, sitting by herself watching the sunrise, very reminiscent of the Arashion Seis arc, with Urza basically doing the same thing but at sunset. What you do eventually get Urza joining Wendy, with her, remarking that, Wendy's up pretty early, thinking that she just had trouble sleeping during the night and that's why she's up, which Urza notices that something must be bothering Wendy. And this is where you get the Irene talk, with Wendy asking Urza if she ever thinks about Irene. And for Urza, this kind of comes out of left field because she's like, well, why do you want to know that? I think it's kind of interesting to get Urza's thoughts on this person that claimed to be her mother, with Urza calling her a sad person. Which she has to think about this a lot, because she says not a day goes by when I don't think of her. The only person I can truly call a parent is Master Makarov. But ever since that day I met that woman that called herself my mother, I always imagined the future I could have built with her. For Urza, she's just like, okay, I was, wrong to think all this, I just forget about it. And Wendy's just like, there's nothing wrong about that. If I had the ability to meet my own parents, that died potentially hundreds of years ago, and if they were before me, I don't even know what I'd do. Which that really quickly brings out scary Urza, calling Irene a scoundrel that brought harm to the guild, and that she cannot forgive that. And yet the face she showed in the end was so tender and kind. Which I like when she was saying that. It was like she was gonna do a requip of some kind, but then it just turned out to be nothing. Which I really like this moment between Wendy and Urza, with Wendy saying to Urza, I'm sure she'll always be watching over you. And you get a very Urza response, with her saying, I don't need her to, because she's always in my heart. She may have been an enemy and a miserable person, but she was my mother, and I won't forget her for that. You don't get Wendy explicitly stating that she knows that Irene has left her. She says in her mind that, even so, Irene, I'm grateful for all that you've done for me. And with that, we cut back over to the Diablos Guild Hall, and you get Natsu saying a very, very rare thing. He's going up to Loxus and Kirin and telling them to quit fighting. When did you think you would see the day of Natsu trying to tell people to stop fighting? Also, when did you think you'd see the day that you finally give Loxus a rival? With Loxus telling Natsu to shut up and, yelling at Kirin that he didn't admit that he lost, and Kirin trying to flex that he only used 10% of his power, with Loxus immediately slapping back with, I only used 5% of mine, and Kirin following up saying, I only used 1/10 of my power. So while they're arguing, Natsu's saying, that's why I'm telling you guys to quit it. Which I absolutely love that in the background Lucy is there like, all people, Natsu's trying to stop a fight? What's going on here? What you get the true motivation of why Natsu's actually trying to stop this fight, because if he doesn't stop it, then he wants to join in. Which I love that Lucy and Gray in the background knew that this was too good to be true. Which with that, we cut over to where the majority of this chapter is spent. And honestly, a majority of what they're going to say here is kind of a rehash of previous chapters. But they're sitting at this table together, staring each other down. I like that Silene has a little council behind her. And you get Elfinsair starting this conversation by saying, so the moon dragon god Silene, you won't be killing any more people, will you? Pretty much it's just a rehash response from previous chapters of, as long as they don't attack me, I won't attack them. And Elfinsair's like, so, the ones that attack you, would you kill them? I kind of love how nonchalant Silene is, because she's like, yeah, of course I'll kill them, because I'm just wanting to defend myself. There's a few times during this chapter where she says a response like that, and then she just turns around to Misaki and okay, did I say that right? And then she gives her a little counsel on it, oh yeah, you did that totally right. And it just goes on to the question of, people kill each other pretty easily, and Silene asks Misaki about it, and she's like, yeah, people are crazy. And we go on to the question of Elfensair wanting to know where Viernus and Ignia are, which Silene doesn't know anything about that. And she asks, like, well, you got any more questions? And this is where Elfensair goes into full-on breakdown mode, with him slamming the table and asking Silene to apologize for all the humans that she's killed until now, because they were his friends, his precious comrades. And she just hits him with the flattest stare ever, which I will say his emotional state flips around like crazy, because he's, freaking out and crying. And then he goes to, I understand, why you killed them, before he was saying, apologize for all the ones that you killed, and now he's going, I understand, why you killed these people, and, there's no sense in me kind of asking for this. You had to do what you had to do to survive, and, humans kill animals as well to survive, so, I understand all that, but I can't forget my friends, the faces of the people that were killed by these dragons, which is tears managed to reach Silene, because she's like, well, I'll apologize. Elfensair, you need to make up your mind here. Do you want an apology or not? Because he immediately goes, no, I don't want your apology. I'm miserable enough as it is. And then if you apologize, which I kind of love Silene's like flat apology, because she's just like, well, my bad. And just everyone around is like, that's your apology for killing all of his friends? Which, gosh dang, Elfensair's face goes through a range of emotions right there, from looking like he's practically about to like beat her to death to all of a sudden laughing like crazy. Which you get Silene turning around to Misaki like, did I say something wrong in my apology? Which you get Elfensair himself apologizing to Silene. He was begging for her apology for her killing humans, and he himself isn't innocent either, because, him and fellow guildmates of his tried to kill dragons as well. They come to an understanding that, they're both the same and they're both sorry. I like all the reaction shots of everyone in the room, like, kind of happy that they understood each other, and you get a job complete on Silene, with Natsu saying that, I guess that means we sealed the third dragon god, which at least the chapter was self-aware, because Silene's like, I thought we went over all this already. And Misaki's like, yep, we totally did. And you get the thing that we already knew quite a few chapters ago, that humans and dragons are the same, and they just have to try and coexist and understand each other by talking to one another. So now we get on to actual new chapter stuff, by them talking about the remaining dragon gods, and that they're threats that still need to be dealt with, particularly Viernus and Ignia, because their power is enough to destroy humankind. So we finally get to know this weapon that Silene has been talking about like absolute crazy, with her asking Elfensair, where is this weapon that is strong enough to pierce even the dragon gods? Where is Athena? Wasn't Athena like a Greek god as well, or is a part of Greek mythology? I mean, for the reaction shots, you get Lucy saying Athena, and then just like Gray like, well, wasn't that recorded in Elfensair's heart? I love that Happy and Wendy are like, oh yeah, that's a cute name there. And Elfensair actually responds to this, saying it is a weapon that was created by his late apprentice, and he has no idea where it is. And you get Gajiel and Lily talking about Athena, being like, humans made a weapon that could be even potentially strong enough to kill a dragon god. And we find out how Silene came about this information, which honestly isn't very surprising, with her saying that, she's been to a ton of worlds, and a lot of worlds that were very similar to our own. And Elfensair's freaking out, there's Athena in other worlds? Which Silene says, no, Athena was lost in every single world except for this one. Whatever Elfensair actually knows about it has to be pretty bad, because he says, it's a very negative remnant of humankind. They're in this serious conversation about Athena, and then Natsu's just there who cares about all that? I'll just beat down this dragon with my bare fists. This is where you get information about the gold dragon god Viernus. He cannot simply be beaten down. He is a concept. He is a dragon that exists but also does not exist. And with that, that is the end of our chapter. So my thoughts. I don't know if we entirely needed a whole rehash of, Silene and Elfenser understanding each other, because I thought they did that a few chapters back already. I do really like the moment with Urza and Wendy talking about Irene. I think that's going to be a very nice moment when it gets animated, especially like whatever music they put behind it, and they have like the cherry blossoms falling and stuff. They'll probably do the Scarlet Sky and make it almost very similar to that Arashio and Seiss moment that Urza had. But this one was at least more happy, because Urza was crying all alone, and this time they ended at least on a happy note. I absolutely love that Natsu was trying to stop a fight. I think that is like the funnest bit in this whole chapter. I'm happy that at least we're not dragging out this whole weapon thing that Silene was going on about. Now we actually get this Athena weapon talked about. They obviously didn't say exactly what it was. I mean, yes, it's a weapon to try and kill the dragon gods, but is it like a physical thing like face, or is it like a person or a dragon? They didn't give those specifics. The 100-Year Quest crew really has quite the team up now, since it seems like everyone's on really good terms, especially with Silene, Diablos, Fairy Tail and all that. I feel like next chapter we're not going to have it be like a very much of a talking chapter. I feel like they're going to have to start whatever the next arc is, because we've been in the Diablos Guild for a while now, just chatting about things, and we haven't had much progress on much of anything, but I guess we'll see where that goes. What are your guys' thoughts of the chapter? Leave it in the comments below. Otherwise, thank you for watching. And this is Drago, signing out.